Hey, Calvary, welcome back. I'm John Waller and happy Sunday. We're glad you've tuned in to our web presentation today. Today, our pastor's asking the question, how far can you see? Well, to set that up, we have a beautiful creative presentation for you. And no, it's not music this time. It's a poem, an original poem composed by one of our members here at Calvary. We wanted to share it with you and invite you just to take a walk, a cinematic journey with us as we explore this idea today. We trust God is going to bless you and speak to your heart through this message. And we just hope to see you soon. Stay safe. Have a great week.
Every day, a million little actions go into making this moment possible. A single act torn apart reveals a ton of little frays. We belong to the present, to the never-ending moment after moment making today possible.
Can you count to 1,000,000? A warm cup of coffee, the impossible route to work, a smile on your child's face, the $1 that you give away, the second chance that you offer someone. All these things and more are the sum of 1,000,000 little threads. If I tried to count them, I would run out of hands and words, and numbers fail to reach where God's needles continue to thread. What's in 1,000,000? The woman who made it to the well had to arrive every day. Before, by design, she was there the moment God needed her to be. The coffee plant begins as a seed, grows over 5 years into trees that produce cherries. Those cherries are then processed and pulled from some of the warmest places on earth, producing coffee beans. Around the globe, each person begins their day by the hands of someone else's daily work. Do you know the length of your reach? Can you see beyond the end of your block? You cannot begin without planting a few seeds, tending to them over and over and over again. What is tomorrow or yesterday but a gathering of what you do today? Without work, what is faith? We don't need the future. God is already there. He needs us right now, at our desks, in our fields, in our vehicles, tending to our wounds and to our neighbors. Don't you see? We are threads, sewn together, making each of our actions worthy, making each day matter. I think if we knew our future, or knew we could change it, right then, we'd still ruin it. It was by design that the thieves ended up on the cross next to Jesus. Faith is the sum of your habits, and over and over and over again, showing up until God reveals the sum of that work. Drink your cup. Tend your field. He's in the threads.
Have you ever considered the question, how far can you see? It brings to mind Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18. Here's how it reads, "Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he." Now, the King James translates that verse, "Without a vision, the people perish." You have to think about the fact that the word vision in the Hebrew means revelation. And the people perish means the people cast off restraint. And now the meaning of that verse becomes even more clear. It's where there is no vision, where there is no revelation from the Lord, the people cast off restraint and they do whatever it is that they want to do. And with this interpretation, the verse really reminds us of the implication of losing sight of God. We want Him to be our vision. When God is our vision, then we can see very far. The vision of God's revealed word, therein He prescribes the way in which we're to live, the way in which we are to conduct ourselves, the way in which we are to walk and to talk as followers of Jesus Christ. How far can you see? The story of Abraham would read quite differently if Abraham didn't use a God-given vision. God told him to get up and to go to a place. He doesn't tell him exactly where he's going, but he tells him just to go. I'm going to show you a land, send you to a land. And he had to remind Abraham all along the way that he was leading him, that he was following a God-given vision. The goal took a truckload of faith on Abraham's part because he couldn't see where it is he was going, but he trusted God by faith. You remember the part of the story where the herdsmen of Abraham and the herdsmen of Lot got into conflict, and so they had to separate. And Abraham gave Lot first choice, and Lot looks at the picturesque land and he chooses what looks best. Now, choosing what looks best works great when you're picking fruit, but not so good when you're walking by faith. By faith, Abraham allowed Lot to take the first choice, and Lot may not have realized that there were blemishes in that picturesque land. It was the blemish of Sodom and Gomorrah. And in walking by faith, we have to set our sights upon goals that are honoring to God. And among them is the goal to be renewed in mind and sacrificial in service and Christ-like in our living. How far can you see? Abraham lifted his eyes, it tells us in Genesis chapter 13, verse 14. And the Lord said, look, I'm going to give you a great land. I'm going to make you a great nation. And notice that God says, I am going to do this. And by the usage of that personal pronoun, it built confidence in Abraham because what was going to happen to him was something that God was going to do and not something that he was going to do. And in order to build our confidence, we need to trust in what God says He's going to do. We have to have our faith in Him. We have to lift our eyes in confidence to the Lord. I think that sometimes we're spending too much time looking at everything but God. I think that sometimes we're spending too much time trusting in everything else but the Lord. But here's Abraham trusting in God. How far can you see? According to the American Optometric Association, 20/20 vision is perfect vision. It means that when you're standing 20 feet away from the chart, you can see clearly without any assistance. There are people who are, that they have a vision that is 2200, and that is legal blindness. Physical eyesight is not the same as spiritual eyesight. Spiritual eyesight is not determined by an eye chart. It is determined by looking at God. It's determined by trusting by faith. It's determined by following Christ. And sometimes we need to make adjustments to our vision. Sometimes we need to come to the realization that we're spiritually blind. And that's when we have to look into the Word of God so that our vision can be readjusted and we can follow Christ. How far can you see? Well, it's determined by the depth of your faith. It's determined by the proximity of your relationship, your closeness to God. It's determined by the strength of your commitment. It's determined by your willingness to follow. It's determined by your ability to see God even though you can't see Him physically. When giving constant and reoccurring work to these, it will enable you to lift up your eyes like Abraham did. And you'll find out you can see very, very far. How far can you see? Well, how big is your God? How much do you trust? How much are you willing to surrender your life to Him? Because when you do, you can see quite far indeed. Consider that verse. Consider the fact that with God, you can see a long way off And by the way, God knows the blemishes in the land, so you won't make the mistake that Lot did. You can put your trust in him and watch what he does for you. Just a thought.